Don't aim for fluency. What does fluent mean? According to the dictionary, it means the ability to express oneself easily and accurately. That's completely subjective. It's not like you'll reach a point where if you learn one more word, you're going to cross the threshold and suddenly you're fluent. But the larger issue here is that fluency is a cop-out. It's not making a goal. It's just saying, I want to get better at the language. When you don't define a goal, you are signing up for essentially learning everything in the language. You say, I want to get fluent. A teacher looks at that and says, okay, well, here's all the words. Go. When you think fluent, you have some sort of an image in your head. It might be that you can just walk up to a stranger and have a conversation. It might mean that you can read books. It might mean that you can make people laugh. And if you discover concrete goals like that, use those, hold on to those. You're gonna learn to do what you practice. But if what's actually important for you is, for example, I wanna order at a restaurant, well then you know exactly what you need to study. Suddenly you're not focused on these foundational grammar patterns and these endless lists of generic vocabulary words. You can just jump to the chapter on, I would like to order blah blah blah. Learn about a bunch of foods that you want to eat someday. It's a lot more interesting of a way to study the language. Start with high value words. 75% of the words you encounter are comprised of the same 1,000 words. Initially, spend the time learning these super common words that are going to be used over and over again. I'm talking verbs like go, eat, drink, run. What's great about learning these words is that yes, it's going to take some time to do that, but it's going to be super rewarding because in real life you're going to hear these words over and over again. The first time you successfully ask, where is the bathroom, and you get an answer in a foreign language, you get this huge boost of energy. And you get a similar buzz every time you hear a word in real life that you think, I actually knew what they meant. That's super motivating, and you're going to need that motivation at the beginning when it feels like you've got such a big task in front of you. Have real conversations as soon as possible. You don't like to feel dumb, but failing is a great way to learn. Learn how to do something that you want to be able to do, like tell a joke or to order food at a restaurant. And then put yourself into a situation as soon as possible where you try that out. And what's going to happen is that you're going to go into that conversation feeling not quite ready, and you're probably going to fail. And that's good that you fail. Because the embarrassment of using a word wrong or forgetting it entirely is going to burn that word into your memory. I suggest you find a one-on-one conversation partner. They will let you fail in a safe environment. They will give you really good follow-up feedback. They will tell you the proper way to say what you're trying to say. And the sooner you force yourself into situations where you feel really silly, the sooner you're going to be able to feel really awesome by doing it right. Create your own immersion. I spent 6 months studying abroad in Japan. Everything about it was perfect. You had classes every day in the morning. We had a bunch of other Japanese learners that you could talk with. It was a textbook immersive experience. And it was still really easy to not use Japanese. Tokyo, there's a lot of people who speak English. There are signs in English. The menus are English. You can usually get by with English. There were a bunch of other Americans with me at the school, so we just hang out together, speak English to each other, enjoy Tokyo. So everything you think about an immersive language experience goes really quickly out the window as soon as you find a single outlet. The point is, immersion is a state of mind, not a situation you put yourself into. You have to want immersion, or else you're not going to get it no matter where you are. By that same token, you can get immersion right where you are. In theory, what's great about immersion is that you're forced to use the language to understand things, to get what you want. So put yourself into situations where you need that. One thing you can do, change the language on your operating system or your smartphone. It's going to be super annoying. And what I think you'll also notice is that desire within yourself to say, okay, well, this is so annoying, I'm just going to turn it off. And that impulse is the same impulse which, when you're in that country, will cause you to withdraw into your own English-speaking world. So if you can fight that impulse and tell yourself, this is super annoying, but I'm going to find out what these words mean so I can do what I want to do on my phone, then you're gaining the full benefits of immersion. So even though I loved spending 6 months in Japan and I got a ton out of that experience, you don't need to be in another country to learn a language if you can figure out how to get the most out of where you are right now. Pay money to save yourself time. There are so many great free resources to learn a language right now. But there's a lot to be said for a teacher who can give you personalized advice, answers to your questions directly. Also a quality textbook or a grammar reference. It saves you time. Use free resources whenever you can. But if you see a paid resource out there, don't just dismiss it. Figure out if it's going to save you time. Figure out what your time is worth to you. And if the trade-off works, just get it. Practice thinking in the language. Thinking in a foreign language is one of those things that people assume they'll be able to do eventually, but they don't have any concrete idea of how that will happen. But the thing is that thinking in a language is a skill that you practice just like anything else. And it requires that you do not rely on English if possible. And the reason it's so powerful is that you don't fall into the trap of translating things in your head constantly. Your brain has to go through so much acrobatics to figure out how to respond. And one thing you can do is when you learn new vocabulary, don't just figure out what the English word is. So for example, if I come across a word Frühstück and I'm learning German, I could search Frühstück and figure out it means breakfast. Okay, Frühstück equals breakfast. But if you instead were to use Google Images, Google Images is right up here, enter in Frühstück, and you're going to get a bunch of images. Even if you did not look up this word in the dictionary earlier, you're going to figure out pretty fast that this means breakfast. But you're seeing German breakfasts. Like, this is the German conception of breakfast. And that's what Frühstück is. If you satisfy yourself with just learning the English word for it, then you're always going to think about your English conception of it. So this is a great way to learn new vocabulary words, but it's also a great way to practice thinking in a language. Embrace spaced repetition for reviewing. At the end of the day, learning a language is shoving a bunch of things in your head and hoping they stick. You're going to spend a lot of time learning these things, and it would be very nice if you didn't forget them. But unfortunately, it turns out we forget about 70% of what we learn within a few days. Even worse, you don't know that you've forgotten it until you try to use it and it's no longer there. So the main thing about a spaced repetition system is that it prevents you from forgetting anything. Whatever you want to plug into this, it's going to pay you back by making sure you don't ever forget it. All you have to do is review every day. It doesn't take more than like 20 minutes, but if you choose not to use a system like this, you're just going to have to get real comfortable with the idea of forgetting most of what you learn. Do your own thing. What do you get when you learn a language? I think the true result of learning a language is you in another language. You are an individual. You do things with the English language that no one else in the world has ever done. You are never more you than you are in your native language. But as you read textbooks and as you talk to teachers and as you get advice online, you're going to find a lot about how people commonly do things. This is the common and accepted way of doing so and so. The point is that you need to be the guiding force in your own language study to make sure you're learning what is important and what is necessary to you to express what you want to express and to be the person you are. What this means is you should go out of order in your textbooks. You should ask your teacher about really advanced concepts that you just want to know more than anything. You should research these really bizarre topics that you care about but no one else does. Learn how to tell a dad joke in your language. Only you can protect your own personality as it goes through the process of translating itself into another language.